consistently and selflessly. In acknowledgement of their contributions, His Holiness Pujya Shri Appaji dedicated a book to teachers who taught him English and Hindi, that is Chikama and others. With this, our Guru underscores the importance of Guru Bhakti and suggests that those who spread knowledge should be exempt from taxes. In the past, Vedic scholars taught children and their sustenance came from donations. Collecting taxes from such educators is seen as a moral wrongdoing. The story underscores the vital role of education in society and Sage Markandeya's concern for it, paralleling his previous stories about women, child protection, and cow safeguarding. As we delve into the story of Vivimsha Charitra, previously Swamiji narrated the story of Khanitra, and that Khanitra had a son named Kshupa. He was ruling his kingdom righteously and took care of the populace as children. Khanitra saw only good in others. Similarly, Kshupa also saw enemies and friends alike. One day, the Suttas had come and recited a shloka beholding Kshupa seated on throne. In the past, there was a king named Kshupa. He was Brahma's son. They recited a verse which Swamiji interprets as a reminder to critically evaluate praises. It's important to assess how much of the praise is true and what can be done to align with it. Names of great individuals are given to us to inspire us to live like them. When we are given the name of a deity, we should learn about their history and strive to embody their qualities. The Sutta said, "O king, your rule is similar to that of the Lord Brahma's son Kshupa, who was highly regarded." Intrigued, the king wanted to know more about him. The speakers continued, highlighting that Kshupa ruled justly by exempting taxes for those whose livelihood relied on cows or teaching. These people dedicated their lives to these professions and didn't have other sources of income. Kshupa collected taxes from others, performed rituals, and cared for his people. The speakers subtly implied that the current king is taxing teachers and cow-dependent individuals. They wanted to convey this message to the king without angering him. So they searched for historical examples with the same name as Kshupa. Their aim was to educate the king discreetly, and this serves as a lesson in effectively communicating sensitive matters without causing offense, as indicated by Sage Markandeya. In response to the praises, king acknowledged the difference between himself and the previous king Kshupa. He recognized his shortcomings and pledged to strive towards emulating Kshupa's noble path. He understood the importance of learning from great stories and decided to make a resolution to follow this example. The king vowed to perform 3 yajnas during the harvest season to give back to teachers and scholars the money he had collected from them as taxes. He solemnly swore not to tax those whose livelihood depended on cows or teaching, emphasizing the importance of such practices in society. Later, the king fulfilled his promise by performing 3 yajnas and engaged in numerous charitable acts in the form of dakshina. He and his wife Pramadha were blessed with a courageous and valiant son named Veera. He achieved victory over many kings and married Nandini, a princess from Vidarbha. Nandini and Veera became the parents of Vivimsha, making Vivimsha the grandson of Kshupa. During King Vivimsha's rule, the land was densely populated, reflecting the strength and potential of our country. In this context, Swamiji underscores that this population, when harnessed wisely, can contribute to a nation's prosperity. It's important to recognize the value of our agriculture heritage, as even successful corporations are venturing into this field. Making India a key player in the global agricultural market, our country's spiritual foundation provides stability and resilience. And it's our duty to pass down this wisdom to future generations. Now, getting back into the story, during King Vivimsha's rule, all the crops were excellent, healthy and nourishing. What's remarkable is that despite this prosperity, the people did not become proud. Normally, when people become prosperous, they tend to become arrogant because they lack devotion and spirituality. Without a spiritual foundation, it's challenging to recognize when one's downfall begins, as desires and anger can lead to a decline, especially when wealth and comforts abound. To maintain balance, Sri Swamiji recommends reciting verses from the Bhagavad Gita, especially during meals. This practice helps infuse your food with devotion and wisdom, turning eating into a spiritually fulfilling experience. It's not just about satisfying hunger, but also about nurturing your devotion and knowledge. When you treat food with respect, from its cultivation to cooking and offering it to the divine before consumption, you avoid arrogance that might arise from physical strength gained through food. In King Vivimsha's kingdom, the people remained humble and unassuming, even amidst their prosperity. Adi Shankara highlighted that arrogance often stems from wealth, good health, and the support of people. But it's important to remember that these all are temporary, and nothing lasts forever in the passage of time. Recognizing this impermanence can prevent arrogance. Instead, view time as a form of the divine. King Vivimsha had no enemies, and he cared for his people as if they were his own children. Unfortunately, he lost his life in a battle but ascended to the heavens. Sage Markandeya encourages us to emulate King Vivimsha's compassionate leadership. These remarkable individuals, including King Vivimsha, were devoted to Mother Goddess. Their stories are shared after explaining Devi Mahatmyam because these kings were devout worshippers of the Divine Mother, and their stories serve as inspiration to us. With this, the 116th chapter of Markandeya Puranam is concluded. Moving on to the 117th chapter of the Markandeya Puranam, titled the Kaninetra Charitra. Sage Markandeya narrates the story to Sage Kraushtike. Kaninetra, the son of the king Vivimsha, astonished even the Gandharvas. With the numerous yajnas he performed, he donated all the land but refrained from using any of it for himself. Instead, he confronted unjust rulers, converted their rule to righteousness, donated the land, and moved on. Kaninetra ruled over all the lands that he encountered. In this context, Swamiji narrated a story where a disciple initially asked his guru what dakshina, that is offering, he should give to him, to which the guru advised him to lead a virtuous life, considering it sufficient. However, the disciple pestered his guru and he got vexed and asked for a huge pile of wealth, even describing it as so massive that a man standing on an elephant could toss a jewel into the pile. Determined to fulfill this request, the disciple approached King Raghu, who had just finished a yajna and was performing rituals. Upon learning of the disciple's request, King Raghu prepared for a battle against Kubera, the lord of wealth. However, before the war began, the divine intervened and offered to fulfill the disciple's desire without violence. Kubera granted the immense wealth that was requested. Swamiji says that this story highlights how our ancestors gained wealth righteously, emphasizing that true wealth goes beyond money. Kings learned about hidden treasures from sages and also acquired wealth through virtuous practices like penance and yajnas, often resulting in abundant harvests. It emphasizes recognizing genuine wealth which can come unexpectedly, including intellectual gifts from the divine. Kaninetra has performed 73,765 yajnas, showcasing his unwavering dedication and devotion. How did Kaninetra finance so many yajnas, which require substantial resources? Despite his generous donations, he remained childless due to a pitru-dosha, that is, a dosha related to lack of offspring or marriage. He aimed to perform a Pitru Yajna to address this issue. Please note that what follows is specific to that era and is not applicable today. To conduct the Pitru Yajna, Kaninetra needed deer meat, which he personally had to obtain as per the rules of that time. He embarked on a solo hunting expedition but struggled to find any deer, as his horse's hooves scared away the deers. Then one deer remained fearless and stood before him. This surprised Kaninetra, as deers are typically timid creatures. The unusual deer spoke to Kaninetra, a common occurrence in this Purana where animals convey dharmic teachings to humans. The deer expressed its willingness to sacrifice itself for the yajna, astonishing Kaninetra with its fearless and selfless nature. Kaninetra questioned why the deer was so unafraid and willing to give its life The deer expressed its sorrow at not having children and believed its life to be wasted. It fervently requested to be sacrificed in the yajna, as Kaninetra intended. Just before Kaninetra could respond, another deer arrived, pleading to spare the first one and sacrifice itself instead. The second deer presented two reasons. First, Kaninetra's yajna was for obtaining children, so the first deer's offering might not be pure without an offspring. And second, this act of sacrifice would help the second deer as well. This situation illustrates the principle that one should offer in rituals or charity what they wish to receive in return. It emphasizes that materials used in rituals are chosen for specific benefits as prescribed by scriptures. Kaninetra questions the second deer about its motivation for seeking death and how it makes a better offering. As the first deer explained its detachment, the second deer responds, attributing its vairagya to having numerous sons and daughters. The second deer continued to say, "My numerous children bring me constant anxiety. I can't bear it any longer, so please end my life. Spare the first deer, he has no offspring. We deer live in fear, dominated by other animals. My sorrow stems from my strong attachment to my children, who are good but overly pampered. This is a sign of troubled times. We fear dogs, foxes, and other creatures. I am particularly fond of my relatives. I wish for a world without other beings, but I know it's wrong. I wish only deer survived, as I'm too attached. Without other creatures, my family would thrive. But if cows and goats eat all the grass, we'll starve. I wish for no cattle so my children can eat. There's also another problem. When my children roam, I'm consumed by worry. Like all parents, our large family adds to the anxiety. I can't sleep fearing bad news. Children need freedom. Excessive attachment harms them. I'm always scared, happy when they return but unable to sleep, worrying about tomorrow and trapped in perpetual fear day and night. This relentless worry is unbearable. Please end my life with an arrow and use me as an offering." The deer continued, "Despite my troubles, I never considered ending my life because suicide is sinful. Those do so find their difficulties doubled. Just like Lord Hanuman in Sundarakanda, who thought of giving up when he couldn't find Sita Mata, but wisely chose to endure. Swamiji says, suicide may cross one's mind, but one should overcome it. Sorrows and joys are temporary, and life is a gift. Even in sorrow, comforts will come." So, the deer continued to say, "I didn't take that path, making me suitable for your yajna. Scriptures say animals used in yajna attain higher worlds through dharma himsa. Use me in your yajna and you will gain blessings." The Vedas mention that Agni, Varuna and Surya Devtas descended to the earth as animals in their past lives. They sacrificed themselves in yajnas and later became deities. So use me in the yajna and you'll be blessed with a son. I pray you for this. The first deer implored the king, "O king, Don't be deceived by this deer's words. This deer's life is fulfilled with many children. Killing someone with offspring isn't righteous, but ending my life is dharma. The second deer argued. My sorrow stems from various bodies, that is, my many children. Comparing sorrows isn't fair, each has their own, says Swamiji. I drown in deep sorrow from being alone to having a family which brought multiple sorrows. After having many children, love and sorrow multiplied. You have one sorrow and I have many. So kill me, not the other deer. My life isn't fulfilled. Here, Swamiji says that this tale teaches not to mock those without children or boast about having many. Upon hearing the argument of the deer, the king was perplexed. Kaninetra, the king, was torn between the debate of whether a fulfilled life is one with or without children. He couldn't decide and felt uncertain about performing the yajna needed for children, as these deer were arguing. He knew scriptures emphasized the importance of children, yet he resolved not to kill any animals for the yajna. He chose a non-violent path, opting for intense penance instead of cruelty to creatures. In this context, Swamiji recounts a story of Himavan, who undertook a challenging penance involving hanging upside down with 100 ropes, and there was a Homakunda below him. Each day a rope is severed, so if Mother Goddess did not appear on the 100th day, he will fall into the Homakunda. The underlying message is to engage in severe penance, fasting and other austerities while avoiding harm to other living beings. Similarly, Kaninetra was inspired by this and he wanted to perform rigorous penance of his own, emphasizing the futility of harming animals in rituals. He expresses his determination to perform a yajna without sacrifices, rejecting any form of cruelty. Instead, he chooses to subject himself to a rigorous penance. Later, Kaninetra undertook a rigorous penance by the Gomti river as he controlled his senses and meditated to please Lord Indra. The deity appeared and urged him to make a wish. Kaninetra requested a noble and virtuous son, one who would be dharmic, heroic, wise, educated and noble. Indra granted this boon and Kaninetra returned to his kingdom. In due time, Kaninetra was blessed with a son named Balashwa through the grace of Lord Indra without any harm to the animals. With this, Swamiji concluded yesterday's discourse. Hari Om Tat Sat. Jai Guru Datta.